bones or the ashes. The spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me to take my advice.
I beat you.
Yeah. Yeah, you owe me $1 now because you beat me.
Oh, is that how it works?
I clicked the button and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're in the snowstorm, right?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But it looks like it's not maybe as bad as they're saying.
No, but you know what some weatherman said? He said, even if it's just an inch, the wind, it's gonna get you.
Yeah, I know. There's zero visibility. But there were some weathermen were going, oh, we could get up to like 6 foot if this one system, acts a certain way. But anyway, make a long story short, I decided I was craving mac and cheese from Chick-fil-A today. Bright idea.
Yes.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Because I had ordered groceries because, I don't want to go out in the crappy weather. They got delivered to the wrong house, disappeared.
No.
So they're like, well, we'll get you, it's no problem. We'll refund your money. We'll get you new groceries. Right? Haven't heard from them since because of the storm. So I probably won't get them. They were supposed to be here tonight. But anyhow, so then this afternoon, I get this bright idea to order Chick-fil-A mac and cheese. If you have not tried it, it is the best mac and cheese you've ever had. So your sister got me hooked on it.
Oh, no.
AJ did. So, yeah, and she was like, oh, it's the best mac and cheese. And I'm like, yeah, sure it is. So she sticks a spoonful in my mouth when we went through the drive-thru. Holy crap, it is. I mean, it is. I'm not joking. It is like, if you haven't tried it, try it. You will definitely be happy you did. So anyhow, I decided to do, what are they? DoorDash or whatever, one of these services. I don't know. So call, and then I get a text message that goes, well, because of the weather, we may not deliver. I'm like, well, what does that mean? May not. Already I'm screwed out of my groceries, so I don't have those.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you went through the drive-thru and they're like, you may not get your food. So I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? Do I just wait?
Well, then I just waited. So maybe a half hour goes by or whatever, and all of a sudden it's a message, it's like on its way or whatever. So it comes here, and of course it's ice cold.
Oh, beautiful.
Everything's ice cold. The wilted lettuce on the spicy chicken sandwich, and it's just everything's cold.
Yeah.
So I decide I'm going to heat up the mac and cheese first. So I put it in the microwave, heat it up a little too much.
Oh no.
So I go to grab it, and of course steam is burning my hand. So I throw the mac and cheese on the counter, and it goes all over the bread bags.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh God. So all this. So yeah. No mac and cheese for Dougie. No groceries for Dougie.
Nothing. So what are you gonna eat tomorrow when you're locked inside?
I don't know. I'll send you to the store. I don't want to drive in this crap. I don't trust anybody else. I trust me. I mean, I got a great Jeep and 4-wheel drive, but I do not trust other drivers.
Oh yeah, in this weather.
It's nothing worse than being rear-ended. And then you got to put up with all the crap going to the body shops. And blah, blah, blah. It's a nightmare. Anyhow, so we have the Paranormal Rangers on tonight, I guess, correct?
Yes, we do. They're coming.
We do, okay. And these guys are amazing. They really are. They're just amazing. Super brilliant, both of them. And can you imagine they were actual rangers at the Navajo Nation for a number of years, and then got assigned this paranormal, I guess, assignment to kind of cover that, and they covered it for 10 years. So some of their stories are mind-blowing, and so we're going to get into their case files. But I don't know if you knew this, but the Navajo Nation is 27,000 square miles.
27,000 square miles.
That's how big the reservation is. Yeah, I mean, that's a big reserve. It is massive.
That is so huge.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we'll get into all that. I look at the news. There wasn't really much. But I was working on this thing. I was going to do this thing on alligators, right? This is a true story. So I was going to, get into some weird alligator stuff tonight because they're really an interesting animal. And all of a sudden I see in the news, one, that they just caught an alligator at Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York. That was kind of frozen.
They got one that was like kind of.
So I read that article, and literally right after I get done, boo, on my feed pops up that a senior citizen was attacked and killed by an alligator in Florida. This was all within like 5 minutes. So I'm like, yeah, okay. That's a sign. That's definitely a sign. That's a good thing to talk about today.
Yeah.
Alligators. You don't care.
I care.
You don't like alligators, do you?
I mean, I like that they're not eating me right now.
Oh my God. But could you imagine being a senior, you're walking your dog, and little did you know, if you knew your own future, that, from the time you're born, growing up, yep, someday I'm going to be eaten alive by an alligator. Oh my God, the horror you would have in your heart your whole life, knowing that's how you're going to go out of the world.
Imagine if you didn't know the exact day, but you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, you just knew you're going to be eaten. And oh my God, thank God we're not psychic.
So did they find the body?
Yeah, of course.
Like what was left of it?
Oh yeah, I'm sure somebody witnessed it. Anyhow, and alligators get big. So this 4-foot long alligator was recovered at Lake Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York, which is kind of weird. Park officials got it. Park maintenance staff noticed the gator Sunday morning, and when removed, the animal is very lethargic, obviously, from the cold, even though it's kind of been in the 60s in New York. They've had warm weather. I literally talked to my agent. She said it's been beautiful.
It's been beautiful over
in New York City. Yeah.
Not here.
Not here. But here she was kind of upset because she likes to ski. Her whole family does, and they don't have any snow. So there you go. Can't win, can you?
No.
Okay, so let's get into the untold alligator facts.
Yes, let's hear them. I'm excited.
Oh my God! Oh, before I do that, I gotta throw up a photo of granddaughter because before we get into alligators, not that my granddaughter doesn't remind me of alligators.
Is that the one you sent me?
Yeah, I did. It's just, oh my God, she's such a doll.
You want me to grab it and pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay, just hold on here. Do you want to talk about the alligators? It'll just take me a second.
Oh my God, no, I don't want to talk about alligators. I thought I sent it to you.
You did, but I got to get it from my phone to my computer.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry, we'll do it later.
Okay, later.
We'll do it after. Okay. So how long do you think alligators live, Alex?
Hundreds of years.
Keep your eyes forward. Hundreds of years. Is that really your guess?
Yeah. Hundreds.
Okay. Their lifespan is about 50 years.
50 years.
But the oldest on record is in its early 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. So how much do you think a 10-foot alligator can weigh?
300 pounds.
1,800.
1,800 pounds?
Yeah. How do you think they ate a person?
Oh, yeah. Well.
1,800. The bite of an alligator can grow, or no. What? Oh, no, that's 1,800 pounds of bite force. Sorry.
What?
It was 1,800 pounds of bite force.
Oh, so they don't weigh 1,800 pounds.
No, they don't weigh 1,800 pounds. I don't know. We'll probably get into that. I don't even want to look at it. So, apparently they kind of get to a maximum length of 14 foot. But I know damn well they get way bigger than that because we took a laser measuring device in Monster Quest and went out and measured them bigger than that.
So you got one bigger than what was recorded.
But, some of them things get out of their niche. So in theory, though, an alligator doesn't ever stop growing and it can live forever. That's what's interesting. In theory, an alligator could live forever. Quit looking down. You're looking for that photo. I know you are.
You got me.
I can tell. Oh my God. If anybody wore
It's a cute photo.
If anybody, you gotta remember, I'm still your dad. I know. Oh my God. I could walk into your and Blaine's bedroom and I knew damn well something was up. Something was up. Oh my God.
What was the tell?
There's just the look on your guys' face.
The look.
You just knew something had gone haywire.
Because here's the thing. Growing up, I always wondered how you caught us with everything.
Oh, everything.
Everything. We could have been a Snickers bar before dinner.
Yeah, I know.
Probably the wrapper was on the floor.
Yeah. I did nail you on everything. Okay. All right. Back to alligators. So in theory, they can live forever. Female alligators can lay between 10 and 70 eggs.
10 and 70
Yep.
eggs.
So there's about 9 alligator. Quit you looking?
I'm not looking.
There's 9. Somebody wrote me a letter actually today and goes, "Don't be mean to Alex tonight." So there's about 9 alligator attacks per year.
900. So you got to be really 9.
No, 9.
No, 9. Not 900. 9. So you have
no
to be
9,
really...
and there's about 1 death a year from alligators, average.
So this guy was the lucky one.
Yeah, and there are some years though, like year 2006, there was quite a number of them. It's been a couple of flaps. It's like all the alligators get PO'd. Like someone sends them all a message and they all get PO'd and they start attacking. I don't know. Sharks are kind of like that too. They go in flaps.
So
shark attack flaps.
There'll be a year where there's a ton of attacks.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it'll be like 10 times the amount. So, like I said, there was about 1 death a year or less on humans. Some years there's none. They get 10,000 nuisance complaints per year about alligators.
10,000 nuisance complaints.
Yep, and 7,000 of those dudes are removed. What that means, I don't know.
Yeah, what is that?
Removed? Probably removed. Like permanently removed. Yeah.
Or they just throw them back out.
No, I think permanently removed in most cases. Permanent.
Are people still try to use them as pets? Like have them as pets?
I'm sure people have. Yeah, of course people like them as pets. I was going to send you this video of a I think it was a policeman. He was trying to catch a wayward alligator that was bothering people. He goes out and he tries to put a beach towel on it. And of course the alligator just goes crazy and just tears the beach towel apart. Okay, so 2001 and 2006 were the most alligator attacks.
The most.
See, I noticed you're giving me the lasers. The laser stare now. I noticed.
Oh, I don't want to be caught looking down. I'm going to get in trouble.
No. Don't get caught looking down. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so now we'll get into the real facts. Alligators have how many teeth, do you think?
7.
7 teeth.
700.
700 teeth.
Yeah.
What's your real guess? 700?
No, probably like 100.
It's not bad. 74 to 80.
Okay.
Yeah, when the one falls out, another one just grows. Unlike humans.
Can they keep doing that forever?
Yeah, and they grow about 2,000 teeth during their entire lifetime.
Okay, so I said 700 teeth. I mean, that's...
Well, yeah, I guess I never thought of that.
Not at the same time.
Yeah, just don't look down. We're good. Alligators continue to grow throughout their lifetimes. We kind of know that. We already talked. They weigh 1,000 pounds. 15 foot is 1,000-pound animal.
That is so heavy.
So you can imagine that could eat you.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember when I was in Florida, I used to go to Florida a ton. And I'd stand by alligators all the time and fish, thinking they'd be too slow. Because this is before the internet. There was no way I could just look up how fast can an alligator get you.
So you thought they were slow like turtles?
I thought they were kind of slow, yeah. I had no idea they could just boom, get you. So I'm fishing next to them all the time. They were sunning, along the banks of...
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be down the Everglades or whatever fishing.
You could have been one of those lucky once a year.
Yeah, I could have been. Jesus. Could have been. You have a 1 chance in 3.2 million of being killed by an alligator.
No, I'm not, Jeff.
So Jeff said you're cheating. He said you're holding your phone up against your camera to appear not to be texting.
He did catch me though. That's how I was trying to get the baby photo.
Oh, okay.
But,
good bust, Jeff.
It didn't work.
Jeff is moderating, so watch out for Jeff. Okay. Alligators have 2 kinds of walks. Can you tell me what those 2 types of walks are, Alex?
There's the 2 types of walks. There's the walk, and then there's the stroll.
The walk and the stroll. Okay. Yeah. They have the high walk and the low walk.
They have what's the difference?
It says, okay, so I'll read it. So I'm sure I screwed that all up. Besides swimming, alligators walk, they run, and they crawl on land. But they have a high walk and a low walk. There you go.
See, I was right.
Alligators are an ecosystem engineer because they create all these wallows. They dig. I saw you looking down.
I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, the chat excuse. Okay.
Yeah, see, Deborah's text.
Okay, the chat excuse. Anyhow, so they apparently dig out alligator holes, they call them.
Alligator holes?
Yeah. Alligators eat meat, right?
Yeah.
Fish. What else do they eat besides meat? It's really interesting. Guarantee no one would know this.
Seaweed?
No, they eat fruit.
They eat fruit? What?
Alligators eat fruit. Yeah, nobody knew.
What do they eat? Pineapples?
Except me. What?
Do they eat pineapples?
Sure, whatever. Oranges, apples.
Bananas?
Grapefruits, everything. Bananas, yeah, they'll eat fruit. Alligators eat fruit. Alligators are carnivorous. They're opportunists. They eat fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. And it says what they eat is largely determined by their size. However, they were recently reported to also eat fruit, such as wild grapes, elderberries, citrus fruits directly from the trees. Alligators may be helping spreading the seeds of these fruits. Who would have ever thought? What?
They're making fun of me, Dad.
Of you? Yeah, they make fun of me too. That's fine. It's all part of it. Okay. So alligators eat fruit. Female alligators are devoted mothers. Just like I'm a devoted father.
Yes.
Yes. They actually have a 65-day incubation, protecting it from intruders.
Yep.
That's how long your incubation period was, 65 days.
65 days.
Exactly. Yep. And they'll protect their young for up to a year.
They'll protect them?
Yep, and they'll kill you, apparently. A lot of people do know this one. Their sex is determined by the temperature of the eggs.
Okay, so are the hot eggs
Did you hear this before?
No.
Oh, you never knew that? Oh.
No.
I guess people your age don't know these things. Okay. So alligator eggs, you put them in a room, and if you get them above 93 degrees Fahrenheit, they all become males. If you get them at 86 Fahrenheit, they all become females.
Just a 4-degree difference?
Just like humans. No, I'm just kidding. But that is weird, isn't it?
That is super weird.
Are
there other animals where the temperature matters like that?
I would imagine there's other reptiles like that, mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one of them is the Komodos and some of the monitor lizards, but I don't know.
Thanks, Deborah.
Are people sticking up for you?
No, they're not.
Nobody's sticking up for you? Huh?
No.
Right. Go chat room. Okay. Alligator courtship. Alligator courtship is very sophisticated.
It is.
Unlike humans, which we just generally nowadays, it's like, what, go to a phone app or go to the bar. That's the courtship.
You just swipe as fast as you can.
Swipe, yeah. Swipe right, swipe left. Okay. Alligator courtship, they start their spring breeding season. The males start to attract females. They do these bellows, and they use infrasonic components that causes the surface to vibrate. I was getting that steely stare again. Actually, when we just came on before we went live, I said to Alex, I go, Alex, what are you staring at me for? He was just staring at me. And I'm like, like you had broccoli on your teeth, that kind of a look. He was giving me that look. And I was like, well, what's going on?
I was just getting dialed in.
And he denied it. Oh, man. What did you eat before you came on? So anyhow, so I'm not done with the courtship. Other rituals include head slapping. Head slapping. So I'll slap their head, their snout. They'll do back rubbing, and they'll blow bubbles.
They'll blow bubbles.
They blow bubbles, yeah. So that's it. We're all done. Except for some clips, maybe.
Yes, Doug's clips.
Yeah, I got to pull them up because I have no freaking clue what they are. So I'm going to pull them up if it's possible.
Get ready, guys.
What makes you think I'm ready with these clips? Okay. Clip 1. There's no way this car can make it up this hill. I even think maybe it could be CGI, but there's a big hill. And they used to have a thing called hill climbs. And I think they still do. We did motorcycle hill climbs when I was young. But the point is, if you don't get to the top, it's kind of deadly because you come tumbling down.
You come tumbling down?
Motorcycle, yeah, you can come tumbling down. So play clip 1. But look at this hill. It's like there's no way this guy could make it up that. Unless he's got some kind of Hemi engine in that thing. Look at this. Come on.
I don't know how they...
That doesn't look right, does it?
Can you imagine flipping at the very end?
Yeah. Let's watch it one more time. There's no way he's not going fast enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that.
There's so much CGI nowadays. God knows. Okay. Clip 2.
Clip 2?
Yep. I had some comments, but they don't make any sense to me right now. This is the teenager app. This is cool. So play this. So apparently they have an app out. We're just saying, hang on a second. So you can look into this and it'll put your teenager self above you. So the top picture is the guy below. This is what we're getting into with AI. He's looking at himself going, I didn't look like that ever. You get it?
I think it's super bizarre.
It is bizarre. They're coming out with so many of these filters. I mean, at some point, you're not going to be able to trust anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like nothing. That's the teenager app. There's a lot of examples. A lot of women are, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They're using it. Some of them are crying. It's I don't know. I don't know if it's good for your mental state.
Dating's going to get weird.
Huh?
Dating's going to get really weird.
The aliens? What did you say?
Dating.
Oh, dating. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know what's going to happen there. Clip 3. This is not a good time to do this. So this is footage of this guy who just attached like 1,000 balloons to his lawn chair. Right? We've all thought about doing this. I thought about it. Didn't you, Alex? Getting a bunch of helium balloons, everybody did. So this guy did this and didn't work out very well. So now there's a double reason not to attach 1,000 helium balloons to your lawn chair, right?
Oh, yeah. Sounds like a great
You'll get
idea.
shot down. Yep. Anyhow. Sad.
I know.
Don't do that. Not a good thing. Actually, at a certain age, you should be smart enough not to put anything on your feet without brakes. Nothing. You don't put stuff on your feet without brakes, see, Alex, even at your age.
Oh, my dad taught me better.
No, but Blaine, your brother, he puts things on his feet constantly without brakes. Or jumps out of airplanes. Well, it's not really a brake. Sure, a parachute can slow you down.
There's a brake. It's called the floor.
Yeah, that's a real good brake. But man, don't put stuff on without brakes, like skis, roller skates. Although roller skates sort of have a brake. They have more of a brake than ice skates. Okay, clip 4.
Clip 4?
I never said any of these were good.
I think they're good. I think they're amazing.
I had to do this. A sea slug. So just look at the coloration though. God, that's cool. Probably plays for the Vikings. I think the clip you show after my clips are more interesting.
You think so? We should just go right into the next.
Maybe. Okay. Isn't that cool? It just amazes me. It never quits amazing me. Okay. This clip 5 is really this is a cool clip. The highlight, especially because of the topic. This is the biggest stick structure I've ever seen. I just can't imagine people building this thing. But go ahead and play clip 5. Did a Bigfoot build this? And the reason I was interested in it, because I found a structure almost as big once. So it didn't have anywhere near this amount of sticks.
This thing's huge.
But it was weird because it went up one day and then it was gone the next. I went back there to do some photographs, then it was gone. Then went back again and it was up again. I mean, this is pretty tall. Look at this. I mean, it's probably people, but what's cool is that there's a chance it wasn't. There's a lot of fulcrum construction here, and that makes me question that it was not humans. I mean, one, how are you even going to get to that second layer of sticks up there?
Won't be easy.
A lot of those are fulcrums. So anyhow, just never seen anything like this. It was just crazy. So who knows? Probably built by humans.
What's the next clip?
The next clip, I just thought it was cool as heck. Valley of the Jets. I mean, this happened to me one time where I did not expect them to come sailing through. I was in my car and it went right over the top of my car, literally. I think I was in Key West or near Key West when it happened.
You've been that close to a jet before on land.
For space there, but literally scared the living bejesus out of me.
Oh, I can see why.
You can put the volume up on this.
Oh, here. Let's do it one more time.
You can just imagine how cool that would be to see.
And then looks like we have a couple more clips left, and then you'll be excited to know John and Stan are in the back room.
Oh, awesome. Okay, clip 7. So this is kind of interesting. I've got a good, cool comment. It's about basically one of these airplanes that's kind of locked in midair. And I know this footage is authentic. There's a way I know it's authentic. It's completely authentic. But you see this airplane is not moving.
Yeah.
But it's airborne and it's pulling a banner. I used to pay to have a lot of these advertising banners put up in Pennsylvania. In fact, I had a pilot I hired every year, and his name, I swear to God, was Peter Pilot.
Peter Pilot?
Peter, his last name was Pilot, yep. Anyhow, I was dwell on the next clip. Put the But here's what can happen. When you're pulling a banner, if you get a headwind that's strong enough, the airplane can fly. And this is one of their bigger fears when they're pulling these banners. And he's just locked there, He's got to basically come down to build some airspeed.
That is
He's pretty much stalled out, but he's got a headwind. So that's what's keeping the plane afloat. So there you go. Just cool. People are like, is that a glitch or whatever? No, it's just physics. There was a time I was flying back. Remember I took you to Guardian Eagle Lodge? Remember that?
Have all the fish?
We were up there with Ron Shera and you were like made the board and you were going, Ron, I outfished you when you were like 5 years old or whatever. Yeah. I told you what to say and you'd go up to Ron and say it in front of everybody to embarrass him.
Still hasn't forgiven me.
No, right. So, but on that trip home, they had to fly us out all separately. They couldn't get us all on the plane, and we had other friends of your moms were there. And one of the ladies was pregnant. And there was a headwind of it was like 70, 80 miles an hour. And we were literally going backwards in the plane.
Oh, geez.
We were going backwards, and she was vomiting.
That bad.
This pregnant lady was vomiting. And I'm in the back. There was only, I think, 2 or 3 of us in the plane. And we're going backwards, and the pilot's going, I'm going backwards. And I'm like, well, we're not going to get home very, very quick this way. And he goes, no, we're not. And I'm hearing all that. Oh, it was horrible. Anyhow, enough of that. So let's see what else we got. Oh, this is hard. This one here. Oh yeah, this is cool. So this is where people habituate these wild bears, and the ladies you can turn the volume on.
No, close the door.
She's just saying close the door. Trust me, this is the thing. These bears come around day after day, because they'll put like dog chow out there.
Boy.
Some of these bears that come around to cabins are really sweet, like a Lily or a Whiteheart that we had. They're just really good animals,
Yeah.
They're trustworthy. Usually they're females. And anyhow, I just thought that was people would find it interesting. They're new, Alex. So okay, clip 10, the last one. Well, next to last. Is the most terrifying thing I think I've ever seen. Oh, this thing. Oh, yeah, this is the head-to-head one. So this poor animal got in a fight with another, I think this is, what is it? Some kind of elk or a deer, a fallow deer. I don't really know. Maybe it's an elk.
So messed up.
It's got another elk pierced on its thing, and then the head could have been ripped off, or could have been somebody who cut him apart.
Yeah.
Could you imagine going eye to eye like that?
Oh.
With a decapitated head? Yeah, nature is tough, man. Okay, this one is really terrifying. I warn people. So they're trying to get this snake. It's in obviously Mexico, I believe. And that happens. Did you imagine? This is you didn't even see it, Alex. They're trying to catch a little snake, a poisonous snake. And all these boas and pythons come falling onto the ceiling. So play that again.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's not good.
Hey, you think you're going to be home in time for dinner?
Yeah, okay, enough of that. Enough of that scary crap. Clip 11 is just this fallow deer thinks of my clips. Volume up. This is what this deer thinks of my clips. It's the critic. That's that little carrot you play it with.
Cute.
You had no interest in what the sound that fallow deer made, did you? You didn't have any.
I loved it.
No, I want to play it because I want to show you something.
Okay.
It's not just the sound. I want you to look at its chest. Play it.
The neck?
What the hell is that thing? It's Adam's apple? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
God. Okay, enough of that. Done. I'm excited. So let me introduce these guys. Try to. The Navajo Rangers patrol and protect or did. I think they're retired now. 27,000 square miles of reservations spanning portions of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. In 2000, Stanley Milford Jr. and Johnathan Redbird Dover, whose job descriptions typically included land protection, search and rescue, and evacuations, received a new and intriguing assignment, investigating reports of the paranormal activity on the Navajo Nation. So, these guys are the real X-Files because, you know, you can remember they're doing this under official terms, right? They got to write police reports up when they're done.
I know.
And the reason they did it because some of the other people, the Rangers, they didn't want to deal with this stuff. So without further ado, let's bring Johnathan and Stanley on.
Hey guys.
Johnathan, Stan, hey.
How are you doing?
Good. First off, I got to say the Unsolved Mysteries program you guys were in was amazing.
Thank you.
You guys were amazing in it. They were so articulate. The moment I saw that, I thought, oh man, I want to meet these guys.
Well, that's because we're the best of the best of the best with honors.
I believe you.
Yes.
Are you guys still investigating stuff? I would imagine you are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
We just finished a couple of investigations, and we've got some
Not
on
as
the horizon.
not as law enforcement, or
Right.
not even you know. Yeah, it's off the kind of off the grid,
Right.
so to speak.
Well, that's what we all do. We're all off the grid. It's just that you were maybe the first two guys in history. That's kind of what I'm thinking, that actually got that assignment. Have you ever thought about that? That's kind of historical.
I never really thought of it that way. You know, I mean, in law enforcement, officers are experiencing paranormal, especially those that are out patrolling at night, and they encounter things. But most agencies won't let them, you know, officially speak about these things or relate this into the media or whatever. And so, just like you said, John and I were assigned these duties. It wasn't that we volunteered or wanted to be X-Files or any of that. We were directed by the chief ranger that John and I were going to be responsible for being the primary lead investigators for this stuff.
Well, what was the private conversation like between you, Stan, and Johnathan when you guys got out of that office after you were asked to do this officially? I don't think that's been asked of you. What was the private conversation like right after? You know, have you imagined you're like two kids getting out of that office going, what the heck?
It was probably, I don't recall the exact meeting or discussion, but it was probably something like, damn it, Stan, you see what you got us into again? Something of that nature, I would think.
Yeah, you have to understand that at the time we were pretty loaded up with a lot of different things: law enforcement investigations, archaeological investigations, just all kinds of stuff going on. And then we were voluntold to do this stuff, and we just kind of looked at each other and we said, all right, here's another one. And we just took it in stride.
Yeah, you guys did. Okay, but I just think it was historical. I really do, and I think that I think it's important, the mile marker that you guys created, because you were doing this on an official basis. I can't think of one other example that happened ever in history. So I really do commend you guys for doing what you did and taking it serious.
Well, we always took our job seriously. I mean, from before going to the police academy, John and I, it's just that type of personality that takes these things seriously. And so, yeah, I never really thought about it, but thought about it like that. You know, the thing was, me and John, in our discussions with each other, at the point that we began getting requests to conduct presentations regarding this stuff, we were kind of shocked by it because we didn't view ourselves as, you know, we were just doing our job, and yeah, this is an unusual maybe area of study and investigation and stuff, but you know, we were just doing our job. The thing that John discussed earlier, you know, where he says this was just a part of what we were doing, and it really was. As special projects, we were doing dignitary protection. There would be motion picture companies that would come out and be filming on the Navajo reservation, and we'd be providing security, you know, for those operations and things like that, and rescues and SWAT operations.
Right.
So a lot of different things. It was just that we were assigned to do it, and that, like John said, said okay, you know, here we go. And
so what was your guys' first case? Was it the Bigfoot flap that happened?
Actually, even prior to the special projects unit and conducting those supernatural paranormal investigations, you know, we had cases even before that, but it wasn't necessarily, I think, recognized officially as it was at the point that we were called in and directed and assigned to head up these cases. You know, like I said, there's most of your law enforcement out there that have, you know, any number of years in, they're going to have encountered things that don't fit within the normal realm of law enforcement, and so they are experiencing things and investigating things and stuff. But with us, it was more, you know, it was an official assignment,
right?
And so,
well, let's go into that flap on the San Juan River. I guess there were 30 different sightings that you guys investigated.
Yeah, that case was rather eye-opening.
Yeah.
We had 30 people that had some contact with Bigfoot along the San Juan River. As a group, they went into the police department and requested an investigation. The person in charge over there, without naming any names, laughed at them and said, "Ha! How much of these people have had to drink?"
Yes.
And apparently that got put in one of the local newspapers up there, and the people weren't very happy about that. So they turned around, they contacted the Rangers, and they asked us to come in and do this investigation. So we got on the ground up there with, I think, a total of 6 Rangers. We went for 2 nights and 3 days out in the field, and we stayed up at the night using both forward-looking infrared cameras and passive night vision equipment, PVS 14s, and we had stations set up all along the river that we were watching.
Wow.
During the daytime, we got down and actually tracked some of the cases, where they said that they had seen something in these areas. And you have to understand that the tamarask that's in there along the river is thick. I mean, you get into these little rabbit warren places where you're just squeezing through with this idea that at any second you could turn the corner and something's going to come out of the brush at you. And we came out with quite an interesting array of information and evidence that something was going on there. And so, we had foot track evidence. We found hair samples. We found there was a waterlogged log laying in the mud. Something it was buried halfway in the mud and probably about 20 inches in diameter. And something had just grabbed this thing from one side and just lifted it up and tossed it aside.
Oh, jeez.
And you could see where the imprint was.
What was the estimated weight on that, Johnathan?
No idea.
None?
I don't think 3 people could have moved it.
Probably over 500 pounds.
At least that.
Yeah.
Easy.
At least that.
And the foot tracks, we had 4 or 5 foot strides on the foot tracks that, unless you were on a pair of stilts, you wouldn't be able to make it look like that, especially in sandy areas. We did send the hair samples off to a lab, and it came back unknown carnivore. And that's all they could tell us about it. But it wasn't in the catalog. And come to find out later that these catalogs of DNA are rather extensive. So it's like they couldn't even find it in the millions of DNA samples that they had from all over the world.
That's interesting. So they did run DNA on it.
Yes, they did, but they couldn't match it to anything.
Just couldn't match it.
Super telling.
So what can you give us an example, Stan or Johnathan, on one, maybe each one can cite a case they remember of this Bigfoot encounters that all these people were having?
I've had a number of Bigfoot cases over the years, and so one that I found really interesting, we had the very clear tracks of this thing that had walked through this area by this elderly woman's home. And so this thing went up a grade of mesa that was behind her home that was like at times probably at least like a 45-degree angle, and this thing was able to traverse up this mesa. John and I weren't able to do it, and you would had to have some type of rock climbing equipment or rappelling equipment or something to be able to even go up the side of this mesa. So
was that a turning point for you guys, thinking, "Ooh, there's something here for sure," when you saw that hill climb?
It's really a totality of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
The track impressions that are left behind, and the interviews with the victims of these incidents, and hearing them and in their voice conveying the fear and the trauma that's there from these encounters. We've seen throughout the Navajo reservation, having seen all of these different cases and different age groups of these people. We've had elderly people encounter these things. We've had children, young as like 9 or 10 encounter these things. And with most of them, there is a certain level of trauma that's there from the encounter. And
so you
again,
guys never felt anybody was lying to you?
There have been cases where individuals were hoaxing things and so you're going to always have that out there in the world, for whatever reason, but for the most part, at the point that people are reaching out to us, it's pretty serious at that point, and they're asking for help. And that was the thing with our chief at the time. He was very adamant about the Rangers providing help to those people that are asking for it.
Yeah.
And then that was the thing when we were assigned. He addressed this to the whole department at that time, in a department-wide meeting, and said, in a almost scolding tone, you may not believe this, whatever's being conveyed to you. You may not understand it, but you will take it seriously. You will be professional in how you handle the investigations, and just really in the same manner you do any other investigation. Yeah, over the years, John and I have seen that the different techniques and stuff that you use in criminal investigation may need to be modified or changed in some manner to be able to record and or capture whatever it is within the investigation itself that would be conveyed as paranormal or supernatural. So yeah.
Well, during the investigation of these 30 Bigfoot sightings, did anybody have any things that happened that were absolutely in the paranormal realm, or were they all pretty physical? Most of the encounters explained physically.
It was mainly physical. A lot of them were sightings of something moving out there, and in one case, the family heard something. You have to understand, the family lives above the river, and it slopes in on both sides, kind of like a valley, and then they have their fields down in the bottom. So there might be a 30 to 50 yard slope that goes down. And one of these families heard these loud thumping sounds coming from the garden area. So they told the son, who's maybe about 10 or 11 years old, to go down there and chase the horses out of the garden, because they thought that the horses had got into the garden down there. The kid grabs a BB gun and goes bombing down the hill. This is getting toward the evening, and he's racing down there to go chase these animals out. And he said that as he got near the bottom, he almost ran into this big hairy thing that was just towering above him. And he says it smelled like a wet dog.
Jeez.
He just fell on his butt and dropped his BB gun, turned around and scrambled back up the hill. And I'm sure to this day he probably never forgets, what he ran into. But that was the closest encounter that we had with a lot of the people that were there. There were other encounters, but a lot of those we weren't able to contact them at the time. We contacted who we could in the 3 days, and did what we could. but we did find evidence something was going on.
Were you guys skeptical of the topic before this one particular group of investigations, or were you both open-minded? I'm just kind of curious, where you guys stood with the whole topic of Bigfoot.
We weren't skeptical, but we weren't what we always called believers. To be a believer, you have to believe in something with no evidence. It's a faith-based task. And when we go into an investigation, we don't go in with a preconceived idea one way or the other. You go into an investigation, you collect the evidence, and you let the evidence tell you what's going on. And then the people's statements should match up with what you're seeing as evidence. And that way, evidence doesn't lie. It doesn't make misleading statements. It doesn't color anything. It's just evidence. And you let it fall where it will, and wherever the evidence takes you, that's where you end up.
Yeah. And so I would imagine you guys were pretty well convinced by the evidence that these people really saw what they said. Correct? Is that right, Stan? I mean,
Well, I've since that time in other investigations, I ended up witnessing one of these things that people are referring to as a Bigfoot. And so I know that, that there is something there, and it fits a description that other people have given about these things. And so I've witnessed it with my own eyes, and at least twice now at another time. So, it's like with all of the collective paranormal investigations, you start to gain an understanding that these things that people call paranormal, that it's not just all folk tales and tales around a campfire and that kind of thing. You begin to see the evidence that things are going on in our world, and we may not have complete explanations or understanding of these things, but they are occurring.
Yeah. Would you feel comfortable, Stan, in sharing your encounter, one of your encounters?
One of the more intense experiences I had was actually before I got into law enforcement, and I had gone to the movies one night, and I'd borrowed my sister's car, and I watched one of the Stephen King movies that was in the theater at that time, called Maximum Overdrive. It was a horror picture about a semi truck that was, and other trucks that had gained basically a life on their own and were terrorizing people and killing people. And I'd went to watch that movie one night, and so when I left the theater or was getting ready to leave, there was an elderly man there who asked if he could catch a ride back to the town that I lived in. So I said, sure. And so I did give this individual a ride, and it was out on a long stretch of highway, and he asked, to be let out, kind of out in a kind of remote area, and there's no external lighting or anything, street lamps or anything. So I dropped him off, and I turned around and I started back the way that toward my home. And as I was driving on the highway, I began seeing something moving out of the passenger side window, not too far from the vehicle, but on the inside of a fence that ran parallel with the highway. And so I kept glancing over there to see what this was. And it appeared, that it might be a horse that was running along the inside of the fence. And at one point, this thing ends up jumping the barbed wire fence. Gee. And it gets closer and closer to my vehicle, to the point that it's within like 3 or 4 feet of the vehicle, and it's running, keeping up with me as I'm driving.
How fast were you going, Stan?
And it would have been between 55 and probably 60 at that time. So I'm watching this thing, and the closest thing that I can describe it looking similar would be that of a greyhound dog, these dogs that they race competitively. And it looked like that, but its back came up over the side of the door. It was all white from head to toe. And it appeared that it was running on all fours on the ground by the vehicle.
Jeez.
And so at one point I look over at it, and it's looking straight back at me, and its eyes were the color of these exit signs you see in the movie theaters, that color of orange, kind of a fiery orange. And it's looking at me, and its eyes were as though they had their own source of illumination. So it's looking at me, I looked at it, and at the point that I seen it looking at me, I just kind of slid down in the driver's seat as far as I could, and still being able to see over the dash, and I accelerated, and I never looked back to look at this thing again at that point. And I don't know if it continued to follow me or run beside the vehicle for, I don't know. I don't know what happened with it. But within a couple of miles from there, I come sliding into the driveway at the house and ran into the house, and I was kind of out of breath. And that's when my father's full-blood Navajo, or he was. He's passed on since last couple of years. And so he laughed, and he asked me what was going on, and I told him, and that's when he told me that was what's referred to as a skinwalker, or and when it's in animal form.
Jeez. It's insane. Yeah. Somebody in chat had mentioned too they had an encounter at something smashing into their car when they were doing 55. Mm-hmm. Renee had, there it is. Yeah. That's pretty. So that was your first encounter with the unexplained.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
In my lifetime, there's been other encounters with what I would refer to as paranormal or haunting or those kind of things. And when growing up in Northeast Oklahoma, my mother, having grown up in a rural area, I mean, that is the capital of Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma, Tahlequah. And there is a lot of cultural tales about shape-shifting and hauntings, and them seeing orbs and all kinds of things. These things were tales of paranormal events that happened. And so I guess, growing up in that environment, you knew there was things that couldn't readily be explained. And but these were firsthand, close up events, close up encounters that were undeniable. That that this was something otherworldly or something.
Could I ask both of you a question? Because
Sure.
you did all these
Sure.
investigations and all this evidence started to mount up. On you in your personal lives, did this make life more beautiful or more scary? Ominous. I mean, as all these unexplained things become more real, you interview all these witnesses, you collect all this evidence. What did that do in your personal life?
I'll let John lead in on that.
Well, for us, one of the things that we did when you have a dangerous situation, you don't let that fear stop you or influence you in any way. Say you're on a way to an accident, I'm going to start combat breathing on the way and make sure that my head is clear because I may have injured people all over the place that need triage. In the case of a dangerous situation, which a lot of these are, they're happening, and you can't. Even Bruce Lee said, "Can you look at a situation without naming it? Naming it, making it a word, causes fear." So, his point was, don't name it, and that's what we did. We didn't name these things. We just went in and investigated them. Afterwards, we'd come out and go, "Wow, did we just go through that?" And afterwards, you do run into some really creepy situations. And we have ways that we protect ourselves. We have a friend who's a remote healer that helps us, and he'll actually help us with protection ahead of time if we know that we're gonna go into something. But a lot of our stuff is based in Native American practice.
Right.
So
is that through I think is the term smudging with the smoke?
We use smudging. I don't recommend it for everybody because if you're not Native American, it's all you're doing is assuming their cultural practice. A lot of people, come from Pennsylvania. They have their own methods of protection. Other cultures have their own methods, and I would think that look into your background, find out, what protects you. It could be something just like going to church and praying. A lot of that depends on intent. And if you have the idea that this intent is to protect you, it will. So, and maybe in that case, you're using faith, but for us, smudging, they're finding out now that even the smoke has antibacterial properties. And you'll see the priest walking down the aisle with a pot, on a chain, smudging it back and forth.
The urn, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's we pray. We're very, spiritual. You almost have to be, but we don't have that fear. When we like to say, there's no fear of the unknown when we go into these things. We just go in and do what we have to do, and then afterwards we might take a couple of deep breaths and go, "Wow,
Well, Stanley had his experience. Obviously, it was pretty dramatic. Was your transformation into understanding that the paranormal was real or unknown creatures was real based on a personal experience or just based on observing evidence, Johnathan?
I would say that it's based on observing evidence because all my life, I had read books like everybody else, Eric von Daniken and what's that guy's name? Blitz, that wrote a bunch of books, and I found that they were very interesting. But when we would spend all our summers on the reservation, and we would hear stories about the Skin Man. We would hear stories about UFOs and stuff like that. And so you hear all this stuff, and then you start seeing things. I've seen a red orb just slowly meandering through the trees, just back and forth, and then it went up a hillside doing the same thing. And my grandfather got out of the truck and was grabbing for his 30-30 lever action, and he says, "I'm going to shoot it," And my grandmother was screaming at him, and I'm sitting between them, watching this whole thing. I was probably in junior high, and she says, "You leave it alone. You don't shoot at it," And she intimated to me later on that she thought it was a skinwalker, because they had been known to have a red light on them as they moved. Although today I look back at it and it could have been an orb, but it was only the size of maybe a little smaller than a volleyball, and very weird, no sound to it at all. And this was at 2 a.m. So yeah, you see stuff like that you don't have an explanation for, but it sticks in your mind.
Yep. It's humbling.
One of the things that you mentioned is reacting to these phenomena, and let's say a haunting case, and we found repeated incidents that when we would be working with other investigators and stuff, that sometimes when you would react, we would have individuals that would be reacting and frightened and yelling or whatever, that these energies would feed upon that energy, and it would seem to allow them to manifest, with greater intensity and stuff to those reactions. And so, that's part of why we try to maintain, that controlling one's fear. The other thing goes back to the training that we had as special operators and as SWAT. There's been times that we've been shot at, and you maintain that control over your emotions and rely on your training to get you through that situation. And so
Stan, John had mentioned a special kind of breathing. So if you guys were going into a really stressful situation, was there a certain exercise you did to help prepare for that?
The tactical breathing that John's referring to, I'll let him explain that. But we all operators would learn those kind of techniques, and what it allows you to do, you're basically increasing the oxygen level to your brain and to your body. So one, your organs are getting the oxygen that they need to maintain in a extraordinary situation, so I'll let John can describe his breathing technique.
Yeah, we call it combat breathing, but what it does is you step by step, you would inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 4 seconds. And then you would hold that for 4 seconds. And you would keep doing that over and over. What that does is it slows your breathing down, because in in an emergency situation, you got the siren going, you got the lights flashing, and you know, you're going 80 miles an hour to get somewhere. And if you get there and you're so amped up, you can forget to do things. You can forget to, you know, you go running out of your vehicle, you forgot your long gun, you know. And we tell our guys in firearms training, the only reason you carry a pistol is to fight your way back to your vehicle and get your bigger gun.
Yeah.
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 Because you forgot it.
Yeah.
So it's a way to calm yourself down. Now, what's really nice about this whole thing, they have actually had people that were in the process of having heart attacks. And they started this combat breathing and were actually able to drive themselves to the emergency room. And, you know, so it does work. It stabilizes you, it calms you down, and you can start tactically planning what you're going to do when you get there, and be calm about it.
When you're going through those events, there's a whole chemical cocktail that's flooding your bloodstream, and you feel this, you know, all the way through the event, what you're experiencing, until it's over with, and then it just crashes. And so I think it helps to navigate and mitigate that chemical cocktail process that's going on in your body, because you may be operating your vehicle at a high rate of speed. At the same time, you may be talking on your microphone or radio to the dispatcher, explaining different pieces of information to that dispatcher. You know, there's so many different things going on. You're observing your environment, you know, 360 degrees. You may be having to go and navigate an intersection or whatever. You got to do so in a manner that's keeping the public safe and you safe at the same time. So there's hundreds of things that are going on through your mind during that event. So yeah, that technique it's really important to maintain a clear conscience and thought, and so yeah.
Do you guys both think that Bigfoot is a skinwalker? I mean, to put it point blank, or do you think it's a completely different entity?
For me, when I would get those kind of calls that somebody would be conveying to a dispatcher or to the officers that they seen a Bigfoot or witnessed a Bigfoot or there's Bigfoot tracks, when I would go into that case to investigate it, for me, they could always go to a point where there's a why, and it would either go the way of a traditional Bigfoot case, or it would be going the opposite direction with something related to witchcraft and shape-shifting and that kind of thing. And that was just, for me, that's what I could expect to see with these two different phenomena. Okay. Completely different types of phenomenon, but yeah. But sometimes they could be mistaken one for the other, you know, till you get into the detail.
How about you, Johnathan? Where do you stand on the whole Bigfoot mystery?
Well, Bigfoot has a long history with Navajos. As far as we know, even back into the late 1600s, when the Spanish came through searching for Cibola, the 7 cities of gold, they came through and Navajos were able to acquire horses. A medicine man had told me that they had a encounter with one north of Gallup, in which a Bigfoot had come into the area, The Navajos at the time had horses, and they had lariats made of horsehair, and they rode up to this thing and rode around it and basically roped it and held it between them with several horses. And the story says that this Bigfoot sat down on the ground while it was roped, and it started to speak to them in their own language. And it basically told them that if you take me to Mesa Verde and let me go, I will not come back through here again. So they took it and rode with it all the way up to Mesa Verde and released it up there. We've got a lot of Native American church people that say that Bigfoot comes around when they're having their ceremonials. We have it just goes on and on. Navajos are told you leave it alone. You don't look it in the eyes, because if you look it in the eyes, it can take control of your mind. So, don't look directly at it. And, it has its life, and you don't bother it. So they're not out there hunting it. They're not out there trying to do anything or capture it. It's just understood that it's there, and it always has been.
Do you guys think that a bigger percentage of the Navajo Nation believes in Bigfoot and the paranormal, or scoffs at it? I mean, we're in a different era nowadays. I just wonder where everybody stands on that. I don't even know if you've thought about that. What percentage?
I don't know about the percentage, but I do know that from a cultural perspective, that there are people that have these experiences, young and old, and that to them, this is a part of our world. This is a part of the universe. I don't ascribe to the idea that these things are living, out there in the woods like a mountain lion or bear, that these things are migrating. There are those that have those belief systems and theories, but John and I, on that 27,000 square miles, have lived in the woods at times on various operations and stuff. And for us, the evidence of that wasn't there. I mean, if you had a physical being of this size and shape and weight, if you ran the parallels with things like bears, of a similar weight, and that these things would have to be consuming a really large amount of calories in their diet to be able to have the energy that they do, and the mass that they do, and to have that physical size in our forest areas, you would be seeing scat piles from these things that would be very obvious and unmistakable, and you just don't see that. You on occasion, you might see where these things may have lain down or sat down, but for me and when I've been out there, there's not the evidence that these things are living out there and migrating. And today they've got camera systems, satellite camera systems, that scan the earth. they can read a damn license plate, from that high up. And I just don't feel that these, for me, the commonality in all of this stuff that people refer to as paranormal, the commonality is the idea of other dimensions, other space, other layers of planes on top of each other, whether that's what's referred to in string theory or, you know, these other theories that they have. You know, and one of the cases I dealt with, it was a haunting case, and it involved U.S. coins that would materialize out of thin air.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you want to tell that case real quick, Stan? That was crazy.
It was a case where the director of one of the programs on the Navajo Nation came to the chief ranger and explained that their staff in the building were experiencing strange phenomena, strange events occurring in the workplace. And it was happening so often that it was interrupting the regular work. And so this director asked the chief ranger if he had anybody that could come in and take a look into it and, you know, investigate this. So the chief asked me to look into it. He assigned me to investigate it. So I put together a team of 4 individuals. These 4 individuals had experience in investigating paranormal phenomena, and so we went in for 2 nights. After it had got dark about 9 o'clock, and spent the entire night collecting evidence and stuff. And so the first night I went in, you know, me and another guy, there was 4 of us, but me and the other guy, the guy with the keys, was the first ones to arrive. I walked through the facility, which there's 3 levels on that building. A basement level that has poured concrete, the middle level, which was the ground level floor, and there was a higher up level that was rooms that were higher up upstairs. So we went in and walked through it. There was one room down in the lower level that was a conference room. They had a large conference room table, and I was thinking, you know, this would be a good place to set up our laptops and monitoring equipment. We had weather monitoring equipment and stuff that could be attached to computers. And so I was standing there leaning against that conference table. And as I was leaning against it, it was as though somebody put their finger on my upper lip and ran it from one side back and forth to the other. And it felt just like somebody put their finger on my lip. And immediately following that, within about 5 or 10 seconds, over to my left side, there was a conversation, 2 male voices in thin air. I couldn't make out what they said, but it was 2 distinct male voices. And so the other 2 guys arrived later, and I did a little debriefing, and I told them up front, you know, there is phenomenon here, and I explained what I experienced, and we got into the investigation, and almost immediately the phenomenon of what's referred to as an apport, where you have a physical object it can materialize out of thin air. It can sometimes it disappears or moves. But in this case, it was U.S. coins, quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies, and they would just appear out of thin air in midair and fall in the floor. And for 2 days, there was a total of 65 coins that were collected. And sometimes these would come flying across, from maybe the upper corner of a room down to the other side. Sometimes they would hit us, not hard enough to injure you, but definitely get your attention. And so out of that and actually experiencing that phenomenon, witnessing it myself at least 10 times, and then the other investigators witnessing it, you begin to, that along other investigations, you begin to realize that there's something to this theory of other dimension. The coins were obviously appearing from somewhere else, and later found out in research and stuff that these apports are actually very common in hauntings around the globe. And I don't know if it's just the makeup of basically a metal coin that's either spirit or whatever this is that's manipulating this can control it, that can make them appear out of nothingness or move them or whatever that's happening. But it also opens the idea that, like what you see in Star Trek, where you have their officers being able to teleport from a ship down to a planet, or vice versa, moving through teleportation, that really the technology or science behind that is very possible. If the coins can materialize out of nothingness from somewhere else, then why can't other things do the same similar things? Yep. So, yeah.
Did you experience that too, Johnathan? With the coins?
Experienced it later. When me and Stan would go to these different conferences, we had coins appear, and the coins were all different dates, 70s, 60s, 50s. In the case of the pennies, we had 14 of them that were wheat cent pennies. So, they're 1950s and before that. All of those coins that apported during those 2 days, we still have them, and all of them landed heads up, which is a statistical impossibility.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
We were at a conference in Laughlin, and one night, we split a room, have a couple of beds in there, and it just seems to work out. It's easier on the people that are bringing us in. And I'm looking over on the nightstand between us, and I asked Stan, I says, "Come on, are you messing with me?" And he looked at me, and he says, "No." And I says, "There's a coin here." And it was heads up. It was a quarter. So we took it off the shelf and looked at it and examined it. It was one of those state quarters. And so we observed what state it was, and then put it back exactly where it came from, on the counter or on the nightstand, and didn't give it any more thought, just left it there. The next morning, we were packing up, getting ready to leave, and Stan says, "Oh, we almost forgot the quarter," because we usually bag them and tag them and keep them. So I went over there to pick it up, and I looked at it. I believe this was a North Carolina quarter. And when I picked it up and looked at it, it had a Texas star on it. And I asked him, I says, "Stan, are you messing with me? Come on, fess up." And he said, "No," he says, I didn't touch anything. And so we've got this quarter that apparently the state changed on it.
Jeez.
And,
There's
we
a
put it in a
unique
bag.
there's
What's
a
that?
unique thing with that. After I had done the investigation there, the original investigation, sometime later, within about like 6 months later after the investigation, the guy that was a part of the investigation that was the one that had all the keys to the building, him and I ran into each other at that location, and I was going to work in the morning, and I had my patrol unit there, and that morning when I was getting my equipment out of my car, putting some equipment in the vehicle, a quarter fell in the trunk of the vehicle, and so that quarter was a Texas state quarter, had the star on the back of it, and so I took it and I put it inside a Mylar plastic sleeve. I cut it and I taped it up on the edges so the quarter was sealed. But I put it in the console of my patrol unit. And later, when I ran into that guy, he asked how things were going, and I said, "Well, something interesting happened this morning." And I explained the situation, and he goes, "I want to see it. I want to see the coin." I said, "Sure, it's in the truck." And so we went out to the truck. I opened the truck and I lifted the console and I picked up that quarter. And when I looked at it, it was no longer a Texas quarter. It had the Montana Buffalo state.
Oh, jeez. So it
was
switched the
still-
third time.
It was in the plastic Mylar. It was still there, taped up. But
Jeez.
it was a different state coin. And then I laughed about it. I showed him that. I explained to him it's changed since that morning when I collected it and put it in there. So there's some strange things that happen with like that. That's even a little more unique. The phenomenon still happens to this day. I had an incident where I was in a convenience store one morning not too long ago, and I was going in to get me a breakfast type muffin or roll, and as I was facing the counter, this is early in the morning, before 7, and me and another gentleman was standing to my right hand side. We were standing there. There was a guy paying for his stuff at the counter. We were kind of off to the side, within maybe 3 feet of the counter, and as him and I were standing there, a coin fell directly in front of us. And I know this guy standing at the counter, I know he witnessed it happening, because when he turned to me, his eyes were big, and he looked at me and I looked at him, and I just kind of smiled, and I leaned over, picked up the quarter, and I put it in my jean jacket pocket.
Did it land heads up?
It did. It
Oh,
did.
jeez.
Yeah. So I've got, and John had mentioned this earlier, when this happens, I always keep Ziploc bags, because I'll throw it in there and I'll date and time it, put on there, where it fell and the orientation of the coin and the type of coin, the year of coin. I've got a bunch of bags of coins in the back room.
That's crazy.
Of this, but it happens in my residence. It happens anywhere.
Okay. So
The state,
follows.
different states. I think we even had one happen when John and I traveled to Scotland one time. So yeah, it can happen anywhere. But still happens to this day.
Well, one thing I wanted to actually ask you guys, because Jonathan, you had mentioned it, that you had read, I'm going to totally butcher his name, but Eric von Daniken?
Yeah.
Daniken, yeah.
Daniken, right?
Yeah.
The guy, who started this whole ancient aliens theory. And, in the show Unsolved Mysteries that you guys were on, there was some mention of UFOs being connected to the paranormal. Do you think there's something to that ancient alien theory after doing all your investigations? Is there some connection between the paranormal?
Well, yeah, and also, Jonathan, can you mention the Red Rock area? The pictographs?
Yeah, there is a connection. Traditionally, Navajos talk about star people. When you see like Yebiche dancers in the wintertime, they are depictions of these star people that came to the Navajos to give them knowledge. And what's interesting is that there's always one at the end. There's usually about 10 or 12 of them. And the one at the end, they call him a clown. And it's kind of interesting because he represents the five-fingered people, which is us. The clown is the one that doesn't follow what he's supposed to be doing. He's doing something different. He's, so they look at him like, you're stupid, and these other ones are kind of like the gods. But you have the clown that always does something that's diametrically opposed to what he was taught. And that's really us as a people. So you've got this whole thing that's kind of baked in to the culture. And when we went to several of these locations, like McConkey Ranch up in Utah, when I went to the ranch just between Winslow and Holbrook, there was a lot of what they call petroglyphs that are carved into the rock. And a lot of these depictions of things, you can see that they depict star people. They depict other people with 3 fingers and 3 toes, and large headdresses, and all different kinds of different forms, I guess you could call it. And so we got into talking about that in different Ancient Aliens episodes, and you can interpret some of them. Some of them are clan symbols. Some of them are, and we've reinterpreted some of them. Like you'll see a spiral carved into the rock, and these are migration symbols. But at the same time, we've been able to associate those with portals and reinterpret them as maybe a way of transporting. They found one of these symbols up in Skinwalker Ranch that actually was seen to be, when they did the photogrammetry, they had a huge bunch of pictures that ended up in the sky that just looked like a big tornado. And that was at the near Homestead 2 at the Triangle. When we went up on top of one of the mesas, we found a big set of rocks that were in a circle. And that also had the same photogrammetry phenomenon that was going on, where these things were all in a circle.
Would you guys be willing to go out to Skinwalker Ranch and participate with some of your knowledge? And
I've been there.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have, and a lot of really interesting, strange things have happened, and so that's I've been on season 3, and
okay.
So
I mean, you guys you both seem like you'd be a perfect fit for that show.
Well, Stan's actually not on these shows. He was on the Netflix episode, but what had happened was that he was at the time the acting director for the Rangers for about a little over 2 years. And during that time, he just told me, he says, John, you handle all that stuff. And, I'll catch up later because he's still working today as an investigator. So, I went ahead and reluctantly went without him. And so, but he's, we're looking at getting him retired pretty soon, and hopefully he'll be joining me.
Yeah, no, I just see a perfect fit with you guys. So have you had, excuse me, investigated any encounters of little people or smaller entities?
I had one.
Oh, okay. Do you want to share that?
I had an elderly woman lived out. She's living in a hogan, and according to her, there was a flying gourd that landed outside of her hogan, and she looked at this thing, and she immediately got her corn pollen and drew a line in with the corn pollen around this gourd. And she said, as she watched, she said that she described them as little Hopis came out of the gourd, and she couldn't understand them, but they were yelling at her. And she says they were tiny, and they were yelling at her, telling her, get rid of this line. And so she went over there and took her hand and just went through the dirt and broke the circle. And they got back into the gourd, and it lifted up and flew away. The Hopis have long had a tradition of being able to fly in gourds. So, I thought that this was real significant case.
So what about aliens? Like, do you feel like with some of the interdimensional stuff, do you feel like it's not always, sometimes it's accidental, or like, do you think it's always like portals are being opened from the other side intentionally?
For me, I think that what people refer to as a portal, this is basically a gateway between our physical world that we're in now and some other dimension. And I think that there's natural portals, these that are referred to maybe at Skinwalker Ranch, maybe other places like Satan Butte here on the reservation, Sedona, these places that are known for having portals. These may be naturally occurring portals, or maybe some other source is creating that portal or gateway there. But I think that we as human beings are also capable of creating a portal, like with something like a Ouija board, or talking board. I think people can actually create situations where they're opening that gateway or portal from our world to another plane. I think that also in the case of the shape shifting and witchcraft phenomenon and activities, I think that individuals learn and are capable of ritualistically being able to cross over from our physical world into other dimension. It's common in witchcraft cases here on the Navajo reservation of people telling that these people who are practicing this can be in one location and then all of a sudden leave that spot and reappear somewhere else miles away just instantaneously. So maybe what they're doing, what they've learned to do is to be able to manipulate those portals and be able to enter at a location and then come out somewhere else at another location. And so I think there's a lot of different variables related to the phenomenon of portals and gateways.
Yeah. So accidental glitches probably can happen. Do you agree, Stan? It just
I
just happen
on my
accidentally?
belief, yeah. If you talk about belief and I do think that does happen.
Yeah.
You know, we've heard about stories with the CERN collider where they've opened these gateways and different events and the incidents have happened related to that.
Yeah. God
And
knows.
well, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I doubt they'd ever tell us, what's gone on there. God, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So, one thing I was going to ask you, and that's a lot of this paranormal activity seems to take place near water. Is that something you guys have noticed? I've noticed it. Is that something that?
Well, I think there's
theories?
natural elements in our world. I mean, with natives and other indigenous groups, the different elements of water, fire, earth, wind, and different things are very powerful elements in our world.
Yeah.
So, I think those elements at times combine and or interact to create different phenomenon. So and I know that we can't have life without water on this planet. You can't. And so maybe there is ties in some way to that. I don't know what John thinks.
Yeah, well, I am curious, Johnathan. Like for instance, all those Bigfoot encounters happen near the San Juan River.
Right.
So are they, when they're here, do you think they're eating? Are they feeding on fish? You know what I mean? It just seems so geographical, the sightings. They follow this very geographical pattern.
We have had Bigfoot sightings in places like Cameron that are out in the desert. We've had them up in the mountains where there's no lakes around there. Pretty much everywhere on the reservation we've had 'em.
Okay.
And but what we have seen, believe it or not, is a definite correlation between the reporting of Bigfoot and UFO reports. We would call these flybys because the person would say, "Oh yeah, I saw it from here and it went here," and for a couple of seconds, it looked like a giant pill capsule, and then you don't get much information off of those. You just a momentary sighting. But you get triangles, you get squares, you get all different kinds, orbs, saucer types, and we would notice that as we got Bigfoot reports, we would see corresponding increases in UFO reports, and it's something that you just can't look away from and say, well, there's no correlation there. We looked at it and said there might be something there. This idea of dimensions, we started talking about this back in 2009, and we came up with this theory of the possibility that it could be, all of these things could be related through dimensional gates. UFOs are seen to just sometimes pop into existence. I had one couple that were, they said that they had never thought about UFOs. They didn't believe in any of this stuff. They heard a loud pop that just, they said the sound just traveled through your body and hit you like a physical blow. They thought the gas line had exploded. There's, we have El Paso and Transwestern pipelines coming through with natural gas. So they thought that one of these pipelines had exploded and there was this big fireball of flame out there. So they went outside of their house and nothing was out there. They looked up and right over the top of them, there was this orange ball of light with, you know, light circling around on the outside of it. And they said, as they watched this thing, it broke into 3 pieces. And the other 2 parts went out about maybe 15, 20 miles out, equidistance of each other. And one would start flashing, the other one would flash the same pattern, and the third one would do the same thing. And it just kept doing this. They watched this for a good 30 to 40 minutes. And at the end, they said that all 3 of them just faded out and disappeared. So we think that some of these things are just popping in. And my personal feeling is that there's
For what
a big
reason?
sign.
For what reason, Jonathan? What do you think they are doing this?
We don't know. You know, when the Native Americans first encountered explorers back in the 1492 and 1500s, 1600s, they had people coming to the Americas, South America, North America. All of them had different, you know, reasons for coming here. They were after potash. They were after ship timber. They were after gold and silver. They were after tobacco. They were after spices. You know, they were there to spread religion. And so I kind of think it's the same thing. Even the government has said that there may be 54 different species that are visiting this planet. This is under that emergency document on, you know, how to deal with aliens if they show up. So, you know, they do have a document out there like that. So I think that there's a whole plethora of reasons that they're out here. But I also think that there's somewhere out in space, there's a big sign out there that says you can look, but you can't touch. You cannot, you know, because these people are extremely violent and warlike. And, you know, you go down there, they're going to either shoot you, stab you, or poke you with a stick, you know. So, you know, don't
or shoot you down, or shoot you down with a missile.
Yeah,
that's right. A Sidewinder missile.
Well, let's just real briefly go to modern events. What do you guys think of that whole balloon, the misinformation coming from these generals saying we're not ruling out aliens, and just the whole thing was weird. Obviously, the first balloon was a balloon, but then after that, what was going on?
You first have to understand that as Native Americans, we have a distinct historical distrust of the government and the military. And that said, you know, without getting all political about it, you know, we survived basically systematic genocide. You know, for 574 tribes across the United States alone.
Yes, sir.
And those are the only ones that are recognized. There probably were more than 1,000 tribes before that happened, and some of them were just completely wiped out. So, you know, we tend to look at this stuff and go, well, they're not going to tell us the truth anyway.
Right.
They're looking at weaponizing this stuff. We have actually had military people show up at our conferences when we talk. And nowadays we give them a shout out and we say, hey, anybody from the military that's here, welcome.
Good for
Because
you.
if you think about it, wouldn't the military want to know how the skinwalker affects its change and turns into an animal in order to do reconnaissance behind enemy lines? Wouldn't they want to know how to become a half, werewolf and be able to just, tear people up, with their claws?
Absolutely.
So, and of course they want to know how these UFOs are operating, how they defy our modern physics, our understanding of physics. And, they're not going to talk to us about it.
Have you guys ever confronted face to face some of these military people and say, why are you here, and just see how they react?
Actually, no.
In those events where we know they were in the audience, they will actually get up and leave the audience before the speaking's done, and they won't be around at the very end of it. So, yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah.
So, what case kind of haunts you guys? Is there any case? It's probably not the same one. Is there one thing you saw or experienced? I'm not talking about your one. Obviously, that was a real haunting experience you had, Stan. But a case that you investigated, is there one that really kind of just gives you pause?
I think for me, it was a case involving an elderly Navajo man, and where he had these entities walking around his residence. He had a clear sighting of a UFO that came in and around his residence. And to have this respected elder Navajo man convey this experience to you, and with him not embellishing it, with him not grandizing what occurred, just telling it as though he was telling you about his day experiencing, when as a sheep herder, Navajo sheep herder, and to have him convey that over like three or four different times in total, and that story not changing. And there was nothing in that investigation to indicate that he wasn't telling us the truth. And so for me, that was one of the more interesting cases that I'm always going to remember that,
because of the entities, I would imagine.
Entities, the description of the entities, description of the craft. This individual had worked in the railroad industry as a younger gentleman, a younger man, and it was very, very, very eye-opening, and a lot of the things that he conveyed fit within a lot of the other investigations, correlating with other investigations, and what we've heard around the globe about these experiences and stuff. So really, really interesting case.
How about you, Johnathan? Which one haunts you when you take the trash cans out at
night? Well, I'm going to step out here and talk about a personal experience.
Good.
Over quite a few years, right after the Bigfoot case that we investigated along the river, that night I had an orb follow me for a good 30 miles. Followed me right behind my vehicle.
Oh, gee.
And it looked like a big green ball. At first, I thought it might be a mercury vapor or sodium vapor light, like a street
So
light.
it was that really bright,
Yeah, it was a
chartreusey green.
it was a bright green.
Oh, gee.
And as I drove, I could see it, come up behind me on the highway. And pretty soon I was really watching it. It was about 100 yards behind my vehicle. And as I got near one of the little towns, I observed it to veer off to my left side, or the driver's side, and head off out into the open field. It's just nothing but space out there. Went a good 2.5, 3 miles and went up on top of a mesa. When it got on top of the mesa, it turned red, and it just kept following me, paralleling my course from mesa top to mesa top. From there, it went another, 10, 15 miles, and finally it just faded out. But it made me feel a little uneasy. And I've never felt that way. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that if a UFO landed, I'd go up there and knock on the side of it and ask it for a ride, because that curiosity is so strong. After that incident, I had quite a few different incidents of missing time.
Oh,
not during that time, but other times. And what would happen in those times was that I'd be driving, usually at night, and you drive and drive and drive, and you think, okay, I just passed this landmark on the side of the road that you see all the time, and I've got 5 more miles to get home, so I should be home within 5 minutes. And you drive and drive and drive, and then pretty soon you pass the same landmark again. And you're going, wait a minute, I've been on the road, it seemed like forever, and stupid landmark shows up again. And what's going on? And you tend to lose, like half-hour increments. So I had enough of those happening that it actually became a little irritating.
Jeez.
And I'd had UFO sightings, galore, discs and cigar shapes and orbs and everything else. So I went down and I bought myself a dash cam through eBay, of all places, and it records in 1080p. And I put this in the dash of my truck and wired it up so that when you turn the truck on, it automatically comes on and starts recording. And after that, I didn't have any sightings of UFOs anymore. And I didn't have any missing time deals like I had been experiencing. So I'm totally good with that. Recently, this last year, I bought a new camera for the front, and it records in 4K. And it has a 1080p camera in the back. So now I can get it both coming and going.
That's really interesting that this dash cam thwarted all of these experiences.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm good with that. I know a lot of people are out there that they dream about having some kind of encounter, and I'm totally good with not having any encounter.
Well, I've had a lot of these encounters too, and I often wonder why. What is the reason? Why? And in many cases I've had witnesses.
Yeah, I don't consider myself anybody special, and
no, but
I don't think.
But it must be for lack of a better description, our radios are tuned in to something, or we have the ability to see things. But then again, almost every case where I've had a sighting of something really amazing, I've had a witness. So I don't know. I do wonder about it. It's been quiet for the last year and a half, but man, I can think of years where, we'd see 20, 30 UFOs.
I do at this point want to thank. I just looked at into the chat and comments.
Yep.
There's a lot of really good comments and stuff.
There are.
I do want to make a shout out to a good friend of John and I, Brenda Harris.
Yes,
she's a good friend of ours, and you talked about, the San Juan River area. She's one that you should have on your show to talk.
We did
in more in depth about the Bigfoot stuff there.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person. So
yeah, we did have her on, like
Cool.
4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
she's
cool.
amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
Stories.
Yeah.
We thought about having her on tonight, even, and joining you guys. We'd love to get you back.
Yeah.
Both of you, if
sure.
you'd be willing to do that.
Sure.
Just a fascinating.
What I would suggest is maybe if you're able to look at the comments, some of those that are really interesting, that stand out to you guys, maybe making a note on them, and maybe if we come back at a certain point, we can maybe delve into some of those things that were brought up.
Yeah, awesome. We could talk to you guys forever.
Yeah.
So, where can people reach you if they want to? Maybe through Facebook or some other way.
We are not on any social media.
Okay.
And believe me, as retired law enforcement, people are just getting out of prison now that I put in prison. So we don't open ourselves up to any communication with anybody.
Gotcha.
However, I will be at Alien Con coming up in I think a couple of weeks in Pasadena. And both me and Stan will be at Contact in the Desert this year, and we will also be at both of us will be at Roswell for the Roswell incident conference.
Very interesting. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
people were just blown away by just your knowledge and your caring and the service that you guys both provided, and you guys are both amazing. Just love you.
Well, thank you for that. But I think in what John and I do to bring this subject matter out to the public, we couldn't do that without people like yourselves that have an interest to be able to develop these radio shows, these podcasts, so that people can be a part of it, interact with you and interact with the speakers. And so for us, that's a really important part of this thing. And just like the incident you mentioned with the objects that appeared up north recently, and the shooting down of these objects and stuff, and these things are happening, and people want to know. People want to talk about their own experiences.
Yeah.
And they do. I mean, we see that simply because the internet today, where the average person carries the internet around with them on their phone, in their pocket, and can record and document this stuff and share the information. And really, these different governments that want to hide this and cover it up, they can't do that, because people can speak freely to each other about their experiences. And I think it's a really important time where we're at, in the humanity, to be able to reach out and talk about these experiences and share it. So
yeah, we're 100 years behind, but we got a lot of catching up to do. A lot of catching up. And the one gift that so many people get when they see something is the gift of curiosity again. So important.
We never stop learning. We never stop learning, no matter what our age is. And so that's a part of us.
Yeah, and don't you both agree that's what we're here for? We have to be.
I do.
To learn. Yeah.
I really
sure.
do. That, you never stop learning.
Yeah. It's a special deal. So we thank all the people in chat, and we'd love it if you'd leave us a comment. And we are definitely going to get you guys back soon, and maybe we can get Brenda to join, and we can have a really cool, deeper conversation.
That would be fun. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's so neat to meet you guys. I feel like I've just been gifted just to meet you both. So thank you so much.
Well,
We always
you.
enjoy meeting,
All right.
people out here. So thank you for having us.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks much. Thanks, Alex.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine.